All right. Welcome to San Antonio Sports Facebook Live Motivation Monday. I'm Kim Motan-Bogan, and today we are going to visit with Daryl Moose Johnston, three-time Super Bowl champion and two-time Dallas Cowboy Pro Bowl fullback. Daryl recently finished his 20th season as a game analyst for the NFL on Fox. We got to know Daryl in 2018 when he was named general manager of the San Antonio Commanders and generously donated his time to be part of our Power of Sport campaign. He resides in Dallas with his wife Diane, son Aiden, and daughter Evan. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
How you doing, Kim?
Good.
Oh, my pleasure.
So the NFL made it through the entire season and provided some much needed outlet for sports fans. What struck you most about this past season?
I think the big thing is when the pandemic started back in late February, early March, I think one of the things the NFL did was they set the tone right away with the performance of their virtual draft. So I think right away, that was kind of our first bit of getting back to a little bit of normalcy, even though things weren't in person and live and being hosted in an NFL city. But the way they did it and the way they worked around the constrictions and the challenges, I thought showed that the NFL was going to be very forward thinking and anticipatory in how they were going to do things. So when they made the statement that they were planning to go all the way through the season and finish an NFL season all the way to the Super Bowl, I think a lot of people doubted that. But I think because of what they proved during the virtual draft and then the commitment that they made through the course of the summer, and I think talking to some of the people around the NFL, one of the big things was the players actually really kind of raised their voices with some concerns when some of the protocols came out. And I've talked to multiple people, whether they are, coaches in the NFL or people in the front offices of the NFL up in New York. They said that the players were actually very, very helpful in helping them steer some of the protocols that enabled the NFL to complete a full season. So early on, I had a feeling that they were going to pull it off. I could see the commitment from everybody. And then you heard some of the players talk through the course of the summer how important this was going to be, holding everybody accountable. And I think we saw that. Obviously, you're going to have a few bumps along the road. Yeah. But all in all, I think everybody had to be very impressed with what the NFL and their players and their coaches and everybody involved this season was able to accomplish in completing the season and going all the way to the Super Bowl.
I think so as well. It was, as a fan, being able to watch it progress and see the commitment from the teams, the management, and the players was just fabulous. And I do have to, come clean that I am a diehard Vikings fan, but I'm still waiting for a Super Bowl championship on that note, so it might be a minute. But so in the past, you helped San Antonio Sports with our Power of Sport campaign, and we really appreciate that. But this supports our iPlay after school program. Can you share your thoughts about what you think sports does for the children and the children in the community?
Oh, I think it's critical. I think you can learn lessons on the field, on the court, just in the yard, on the after school, during recess. You can learn valuable lessons that you're not going to learn, in the classroom. So I think it needs to be a component of the educational process for kids to get that completely full-rounded student and have that great experience. And it's not just in a competitive level. We're not talking about team sports, that's already provided, but the opportunity for everybody to try the sport, to try and find their sport, which one connects best with you. I played all the sports growing up as a young boy, and soccer is actually, my first love as a sport. So not a lot of people know that. I had a friend that made me try wrestling. It was hard. But it's still, one of the things I enjoyed most. I think every athlete should play an individual sport where, when the decision is made, if it doesn't come up as you the winner, there's nowhere to point fingers at. You've got to figure out what went wrong, that match during that competition, and try and figure it out. So, I just think that athletics and in competition in general, as part of the everyday for kids, is something that's very critical. I think it establishes, the opportunity for them to get involved in exercise routines and So for me, I'm a little bit old school. I'm a big PE guy, keeping the kids active, especially, at young ages. I was one of those boys in class that was prone to disturb and disrupt the teacher during the course of the day, and had trouble sitting in my seat. So recess was something that was really necessary for me and some of my friends to get some of that nervous energy out of our system. So I just think that there's a ton of benefits to keeping the kids active and involving them in the opportunity to play. And I think the program that you guys had down there, creating some of these opportunities for kids that may not have them, because one of the things that I think all of us are in fear of right now is that club sport. It's becoming a situation where it's getting expensive to play sports, and that's not what we can have. That's not what sports is about. It's about trying to draw the love of the game and create the love of the game for every young boy or young girl that wants to participate. So that's definitely one of the things that we've got to be aware of, and it was an honor for me to be a part of that campaign, because I think it's a great concept to make sure that we're making sure everybody has an opportunity to compete in whatever sport that they choose, because we're starting to see that slide into that club sport model where profits and finances are becoming too important.
Key to it. Mm-hmm. I am definitely happy to share a couple of things that we've taken our iPlay, given the situations that some kids are in school and those things, we haven't been able to do our iPlay after school program in the competitive way that it's been before, but we've been supported by our sponsors and grantors that we've taken our iPlay program to make it iPlay at home.
Mm-hmm.
We've also recorded 68 skills lessons that we've made available to the PE teachers to help them teach the kids sports skills while they're at home, doing their homeschool instead of being in classrooms. So we're super excited that we're able to kind of reach way more children with the iPlay program now.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I think we've seen the same situation with worship. I think we've seen congregations grow in the virtual world, to levels that I think has even surprised some of the denominations, because sometimes your schedule is too busy, to get the kids and everybody loaded up in the car and get there. So that's great to hear that you feel like you're reaching more people with the iPlay as well, because it's just the convenience. And I think that this is some of the good things, the positive things that we'll take away from this really challenging year that we've been through from 2020 now into 2021.
Yeah. And I think, we'll move on here a little bit, but I don't think we're ever going back. We're going to have a hybrid version for the long term. So I think we'll always have an element of the iPlay at home, even when we get back to the iPlay after school in the competitive tournaments and things. So let's talk about your shift from a prove you wrong guy to prove people right who believe in you, and how that's kind of shaped your life and motivation.
Yeah. So you've done your homework. That's a recent, kind of a recent transformation for me. I was always a prove you wrong type person. That was just the way I found my motivation. And I'm sure a lot of people, could recognize that and could tap into that. But for me, it all started leaving high school and getting ready to go to college, and Syracuse University really being my only Division I opportunity. And when I shared that with the head coach of a very, very successful Division III program that was just down the road from Syracuse, so he was very familiar with the type of athlete that would be at Syracuse and be at Ithaca. He told me that I couldn't play there. You can't play at Syracuse. So that was probably the biggest driving force for me to take my chances at Syracuse. And I was kind of that way, into the NFL career and everything. So it wasn't until 2017 when I had an opportunity to have a conversation with Blake Bortles, the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars that year, who had just gotten on a magical run. The whole team went all the way to the AFC Championship game, really should have knocked off the Patriots and gone on to the Super Bowl, but had a really poorly played fourth quarter. We had Jacksonville, I think, week 12 or week 13, and I remember sitting down with Blake Bortles and just kind of coming at the angle of vindication. God, it must just feel great for all those people who doubted you and were critical of you, and I mean, your peers around the NFL, taking to social media and just disparaging posts and tweets, and here you are now having this great season. It must just feel great to prove all those doubters wrong. And he was the one that shared with me that that still comes from a negative place. It's not good for you. So he goes, I've really now started to look at it, to proving those that believed in me right. So, I wanted to prove the organization right. I want to prove Tom Coughlin right for believing in me. I want the people who were responsible for drafting me here. I want to prove them right. I want to prove Doug Marrone right, our head coach. Everybody who's been a part of my career, my high school coaches. I mean, he went through, all the way down to everybody. Everybody's been a part of this journey for me, and I want to validate their belief and the time that they spent, helping me become who I am today. And it was really, really kind of an epiphany for me, and it one of those things that just really kind of hits you hard. So I've tried from that point on to kind of shift my thinking more along the lines that Blake Bortles does it. And you'd be surprised, it does have a better feeling inside. It does, when you accomplish things, that it's more in a mood of celebration than it is retribution.
Oh, that's an awesome story. I think that's thinking about my personal life, and I think rising to meet people's expectations of you is always a challenge, and it keeps you going on a daily basis. So during our year-long pandemic that we're marking our anniversaries of, any tips or tricks on how you've stayed motivated during this time?
Just trying to keep a positive frame of mind as best you can. Probably not watching as much news, not reading as many newspaper headlines, gathering your information. I got to the point early on where I was going to respect the virus, but I wasn't going to fear the virus. And I think that has been very helpful for me. I knew that during the course of the season, if the NFL was going to try and pull this off, I was going to have to be a part of that. So I was going to have to get in a proper mindset to be able to go out and go on the road for 18 weeks and do my job and be smart, be a good teammate to everybody on my crew, just do things the right way. And sometimes it goes against in some of the things that we believe in. But when it's for the betterment of the group or the team, I knew that I would be necessary for me to make those sacrifices. So for me, the big thing was early on just coming to terms with the fact I will respect this virus, but I will not fear it. You heard the stories. I think right now, the opportunity of what you're doing with the kids after school and keeping them active and moving, when we see the impact that obesity plays as a comorbidity in this virus, just some of the other health challenges that are within our control that we can help reduce the impact. So that was one of the things that we did early on. We have a little exercise group with about 12 to 15 dads, and we shut down for about 3 weeks, kind of right at the height there, right at the beginning. And then we just all kind of got together via text and said, hey, is everybody good if we take all these guidelines and put them in place and start the class up again? If you want to join us, please come and join us. If you feel that it's not appropriate yet, we absolutely understand. We don't want to feel like anybody's forced to be there. But for me, it was necessary. The camaraderie, the exercise. Exercise has become a very important thing to me post-career, just for my mental clarity, my self-worth, just things that helps me in little things every day. So for me to be able to get back into that class and have the camaraderie of the guys and kind of get back to our normalcy, in that aspect, and be able to exercise and move and challenge yourself again, it was huge. It was critical. And then you start to find other ways to kind of expand on that. So one of the things that I did really early on, along with learning to respect the virus but not fear it, was to find ways to stay active and be true to my exercise routine, because it's something that's become very, very important to me.
Yeah, I think, and you touched on it a little bit, and we talk about it a lot here, is just that connection of physical activity and mental health. And, during this time with all of those external influences on you, really being able to stay active and to provide that mental clarity and stay positive, I think is key. We think it's key for all these kids that are out there in the iPlay program, and hopefully this doing the iPlay at home is going to help them as well with not just their sports skills, but that mental health piece of it and the physical.
Without a doubt.
So any silver linings over the past few months that we like to?
Well, I think everybody got to spend a little bit more time with family,
Mm-hmm.
which is always a great thing. We've probably been in contact with my parents, the grandparents of the kids a little bit more, through the virtual culture. It's been fun watching my mom and dad kind of jump into the technology and, fight through some of the challenges there. It's been fun from that regard of seeing some of the families connect a little bit more, the immediate family, more dinners at home, more time together in the house, and then the extended family, maybe a little bit more contact virtually than you would have ever had. So, I think one of the things that we can look at as a positive is maybe, some connections with family that are there. It's just, it's hard to find it because there's so many challenges that are out there. But I think that there's been some things that have happened even from the business side, traveling during the fall. I think there's some things that we learned there that maybe are a little bit more efficient, maybe a little bit, some cost savings. I think that definitely when we kind of come out of the backside of this and start getting back towards our old normal, there's going to be some things that are learned during our time with COVID that will become a part of what we're doing moving forward as a business model. So, but yeah, for me, it was, you knew your time was limited when you were going to see friends and spend time with families. So you kind of made the most of it. So, that was probably, the big part. Thanksgiving is usually a little bit rushed and, kind of crazy for us. And this year, gosh, it was the best one we've had in years. We would go to the Cowboy game and kind of got your whole day structured, and it's just, you forget that it's Thanksgiving and you're supposed to be with your family and spending time together, and it becomes kind of just a normal busy day. And this year it was just, no itinerary, just the family, the four of us. And I told my wife, I said, you know what, that may become the new standard. That was a very enjoyable Thanksgiving day.
Agreed. I think I think there'll be a hybrid, whether it's from a personal standpoint or from a business standpoint. It's allowed us to be more inclusive, to realize that we don't have to pick up and travel and be face to face to get together as well. And I think I've connected with family that I haven't seen in years. So it's been a blessing from that side. To just remind us that we need to slow down once in a while and take the time. So the most important question, though, is, will the Cowboys make the playoffs next season? I was going to say, will they be in the Super Bowl next season, but I'll leave you with the playoff prediction.
Yeah, let's take it one step at a time. Let's get to the playoffs first. The big thing is you've got to kind of assess the entire division, assess the entire conference, to see. I like the expansion this year, with the playoff format that they had. It actually turned out to be enjoyable for me. I still think it puts a lot of pressure on everybody to get that number one seed, because I think that's a huge bonus when you're the number one seed in that playoff. People in Tampa Bay may think differently this year, but they were playing good football at the end of the season. Dan Quinn will be a huge addition to the Dallas Cowboys. Mike Nolan is a friend. Mike Nolan is a good coach. That was a big leap last year with the restrictions that they had in place, learning a completely different style of defense, bringing in new players to kind of fit different roles than they had in the past. And I just thought it was very, very challenging for them. And I think when they saw some issues, they didn't move quick enough to get those resolved. It took him a while, but the defense was playing better at the end of the year. Dan Quinn is he's an uber positive, upbeat, really fun guy to be around. I think the defense is going to love him. I think you're going to see that in how they play next year. That's where the leap has to be. I know a lot of people are focused on the Dak Prescott contract and what's going to happen there. But really, to me, the biggest thing is the defense will drive that team. There's no way that Dallas is not going to have Dak Prescott on the field next year. Is it for 1 year on a franchise tag, or is it a long-term deal? That's what we'll have to figure out. He will be there next year. These trade rumors are in my opinion, kind of nonsensical.
Just that, rumors?
Yeah. So offensively, the offensive line gets healthy. We saw how explosive that offense could be early in the season when Dak was there. They were able to keep pace with the teams that were putting up points on that defense. So with that defense getting better and Dan bringing the culture that he does such a great job in creating that he had down in Atlanta, I think you'll see a much improved team. Now we've got to look at the division. Washington's going to be better. I think the Giants are going to be better. Philadelphia is the one unknown in the division. We thought last year they were the one certainty that we had, and boy, they proved us wrong there. Yeah. And then the NFC has gotten better across the board. So, with the 7 playoff spots, can Dallas from 6 and 10 become one of the top 7 teams in the NFC? The talent is there. It's just a question of putting it all together.
That's a good answer. That was way more in depth than I would have. I should have expected. Given your role as an analyst, you should have it all down. But yeah, I think they're going to do well next season. So I think they're making a lot of changes, and I think all in the positive direction. So
yeah, a lot of change last year in an unusual offseason, and it was funny. You were hearing stories about the first time people were face to face was in August. That's unbelievable. So just you can't build the relationships that you need to build virtually. So all that time away from the facility when they could be together and growing and becoming a team, I think people take a lot of that for granted. So that was just for kind of a snapshot into what that means. Just look at the progression of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers throughout the season. There was a point when a lot of people thought that the wheels had come off and they weren't there. And then they went on that run down the last part of the regular season and into the playoffs. Well, that was because they now had the time to spend on the field together. They got to know each other. Tom Brady started to understand the subtleties in all of his skill players when they ran their routes. So it's a process that you have to go through. And Tampa Bay did an outstanding job, getting through that process and kind of hitting it in perfect timing, playing their best football as they went into the playoffs.
Very much so. Well, Daryl, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. Thank you for being a friend of San Antonio sports. And we hope to our paths cross again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. San Antonio will always have a special place in my heart for my first opportunity down there, and just the support that the community gave us. It was amazing. And we get to see quite a few commanders, around the leagues and during the course of the off seasons and things. And for all of us, it was a very, very special time. So I hope everybody down there knows how much we appreciated their support. We sure do wish we could have finished that season.
Agreed. All right. Well, have a great evening.
You as well. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
You too.